Recently, I visited Tonys Trains of Rugby, a wonderful, wonderful shop, but it was situated in an area that I hadn't seen before, which is a beautiful, beautiful canal. I enjoyed having a walk along. Not only was there trains to come and see at the shop, there was a nice canal and some really nice wildlife that was happy to greet you. I'm sure expecting a bit of food. I didn't have any, but it was very friendly. Inside the shop though, we had some brand new items from Hornby, Dapol, Bachman and Helian, as well as some second-hand items, which for me you always find a bargain. And one thing that I went there for was to get the kits that you can build up. You can build up from almost scratch, you get all the parts, you glue them together, you can enjoy them. And there's some accessories, you can get points, point motors and little kits to build up buildings and various things. I enjoy coming here. We went for a walk. I'll go into that a little bit more in a minute, but what we're going to talk about is the two kits that I built up. Now, the beautiful thing about what we're going to be doing here is we're going to have a bit of you time or me time. When you just go buy a ready to run kit, you open a box, you put the box somewhere, you generally forget where it went, and then you put it on the layout and you don't appreciate it much more than the fact that it looks great and that's it. But now what we're going to do is enjoy building up what is I think it's the Mink G van we're going to be building up, as well as the Beetle cattle van, which actually was the trickiest one out of the two. I think it was either this D or the G that we built up, but we'll see in a second. But I like the look of this one. We have the extra bits of wire on the front and back. But we're going to just build up two because that's what I've really got time for. It took quite a bit of time doing all these, but I'm going to go through all of this with you. So the Beetle cattle van, it's going to be painted brown. It will have the transfers on it, which are yellow with the grape and the western. That's going to be there. And this comes in a bag on this one. Some of them come in some plastic kind of boxes and some come in bags. I don't know if it's because of older kits or newer kits or just packaging issues. But here, one thing I'd like to show you is these metal buffer ends. And the metal buffer ends, I was quite surprised to get, because normally you get moulded plastic ones in there, which generally break off during the kits. I always have some MJT ones on standby, so I can fit them instead. But this comes with some instructions. They're okay. If you read them and know what you're doing, it's fine. But there are bits of information that you could do with. Then there's transfers and the glazing, as you saw there. First of all, I start off with a nice sharp knife and I just snip out all the bits that we want. Well, everything basically. And then I use a file afterwards just to clean up all the ends, and I go through all the parts to do this. Just take your time, get rid of any flash, any bits left over from snipping off the sprue, and just check it all over, make sure everything's moulded nicely, so then once you put it together you aren't disappointed later that you didn't file something. And then we fit everything, and we use poly cement. This is just on one of my humble tubs that I use, and yeah, we stick everything together. Try not to use too much. To begin with, I was using far too much, and I had some little areas that it seeped out and you could spot, but I think after painting it all went away. But it's better to try and do this better. But anyway, with the side stuck, with all the little bits and bobs that are on there, we stick all the sides together, trying to do it nice and square. I thought I won't go through every detail on this, but I'll do the bits that I enjoy the most. So sticking it together, try and make sure you put them all at the right heights, follow the instructions, so there's little ledges and things for things to touch, but it should all fit together if you're doing it properly. If things aren't working out, probably means you haven't done it right. And don't fear too much. If you've stuck something together and thinking, oh, it's dried now, you can put a bit of poly cement back on that part again, and actually it will kind of fall off. Well, not if you put too much, it will do it, but if you put a little bit on, it softens it off and you can actually remanipulate it into the correct place. So with the body done, I stick on the frames. It's all pretty simple, pretty fast to get through these processes. Once you've snipped and sanded everything, it kind of drops together really, really nicely. You just have to wait for it to dry. On this process, I'm trying to be careful with how much I put on. So with each side I put on, I dip it in the poly cement, I touch the side, just take a bit off, and I put it where I need, because initially I'd been putting far too much on. But we learn. That's the beauty of these things. If you come to do it again, you'll be better. But now we have all the details on. We have the doors that can slide, which is quite nice. You could choose if you slid them left to right, close the vents or keep the vents open. As well as we've got these bits, which are very tricky actually, very thin bits. You've got bits to catch the doors when they fall down, bits for the person to stand on when they step up to push one of the vents open or closed. And then we got this bit also was tricky. I thought, oh, nice and simple. It kind of, a little bit tricky. I've got big fingers, you get clumsy. Underneath we have these bits of detail here, and there's the vacuum kind of cylinder. I think that does all the brakes, that one there. And then we have the hook that goes on the end. On the other kit, I ended up using a white metal hook, which I had part of some of my spares. I can't remember if that's Dark Castings or MJT, but I used them because the ones that came in the kit weren't very nice. And then I glued them in, just touched the back with some poly cement. These things should survive. It's normally like the buffers. If they're plastic in the kit, you can break them off, and that's why I go to MJT, that Dark Casting cell, and then you can get some. They're a bit sturdier, but these ones, metal in the kit, I thought fantastic. And because they're metal, I won't be using poly cement in there. Not that I've tried it before, but I know it's not going to melt metal. So use a bit of super glue, just some rocket stuff. And then I pop my wheels on just to make sure that they spin. On this frame, it was a bit tighter. I actually pushed the frames out a little bit more, whereas on the Mink van, it was better. But once the wheels were on, that was when I wanted to put the brakes on. I didn't want to put the brakes on before, just in case I caused myself some problems with them being too close to the wheels. But the shoes, you can get them reasonably close to the wheel with being able to get the wheel off at the same time. But they really do give it that more of a finished look, and when you look from the side, there's a bit of depth to all the different layers from the frames, and working through to the brakes it looks intricate. It's not just a 2D model, and I like that. It's great. The roof fits on, but I won't be gluing that on until afterwards. I want to paint that before doing it. And there's the doors as well. We're gonna have to paint them up separately. So one thing I'd like to talk about, going to Tonys Trains for me for the day was thoroughly enjoyable. I walked all down the canal, not the whole way because I think it's like 20 plus miles. You can walk one of the directions, but as you're walking along, you get to see ducks and swans, and very good therapy wise, keeping your mind clear and allowing you to refocus on what's right in life to enjoy. It's wonderful. You go for your walk. You've got, actually, if you get hungry, there's lots of berries and things on the bushes. Maybe not in some times of the year, because when we went, it was more, I think, August time. It's taken me a while to get around to doing this video, you see. There's even some apples and trees that we could grab, and that was thoroughly enjoyable. But if you want to go to a model shop as well as enjoy a nice walk and get out and about for the day and enjoy some wildlife and countryside, I'd say this is the shop to go to for that one. But I'd like to find some other shops that've got that too, because we'll have a good visit. Now we get on to our other kit, and this one actually went together a lot easier. There's only one thing to consider. Well, you didn't have to consider it, but depending on the size of the wheels that you have, you'd have to put on the different axle bits on the side, which you'll see anyway. You have to make the hole slightly differently on the side for when you put the bushes in. But using the kit bits, I got it together nice and easily. This one would be painted the stock grey colour, and I was looking forward to this because they're kind of my favourite colour rolling stock, or the grey Great Western ones. So the more I have, the happier I am. Well, that's what I like to think. But this is where the axle covers go over, where the axle box is, and the springs. And it's kind of nice because it makes, and there's a bit more to the frames, you see. It's not just a frame stuck on. So I appreciated that quite a lot. And these went on a bit nicer in the way that once I fitted the wheels, they were freer. And with this fitted, I started adding all the details. So you have the vacuum pipe here, as well as there was a link, a rod that went between all. So we got that fitted, and that was great, as you can see here. Fitting the wheels, they span nice and easily. And yeah, it was simple. Again, repeating like what we did before, we put the brakes on. And again, we put it there. Just take your time with these things. Make sure it's right. Don't go and trap that wheel with the brakes, because they'll be doing their job. They won't be allowing the wheels to move. And we don't want that for our model railway use. We want to be able to run these wonderful locos round. One bit that I really liked about this kit is the bars that we added in underneath. Using the back of the knife, not the sharp end, you mark 23mm from each end of cutting off 60mm. It was about right. I'd argue it's 23.5, or maybe my 23 measurement wasn't very good. But we manipulate it into position, and we glue it on, and it just kind of makes you feel like you've got more of a comprehensive kit, and you've almost got, what I feel, something better than some of the ready-to-run ones that you can get. If you take your time building it, it'd be very, very nice. And so, yeah, something I was looking forward to, and looking forward to building up more of these. But this went together nicely, just using tweezers and a scalpel and a file, I think, are pretty much all the things you need to build these. Obviously, the scalpel blade needs to be sharp to snip through the bits, because you can use that for deburring as well. The poly cement is important because that does the glue, and you could use super glue, I guess, but you know, it's each to their own. I prefer the poly cement. It actually kind of fuses the two parts together, you know, plastic into plastic when it does it, whereas super glue is kind of an adhesive that holds them, but I don't think it, you know, cuts into the plastic so much. Now this is done, I need to paint them, and I use a nice coat of white. Now white mainly because of the roofs. I wanted to paint them the Great Western, kind of the stock white that goes on the top, and yeah, I thought let's do that. And I can paint brown and grey over the, you know, the vans, finding words. Now, painting with the airbrush on acrylics, I know some people don't enjoy doing it, and I've been recently asked by a few people of how do I get the acrylics to not block up on the airbrush. I can't say that I don't have that issue, but what I can say is I use the airbrush thinners, and I mix a good amount with that, but the important thing is the airbrush. I brought myself an airbrush with a 0.8 nozzle, and I can have a 0.9 and a 0.7 nozzle if I want to as well. The beauty of that is because I'm not airbrushing super details in little corners, I can get away with the 0.8, and actually you can do small areas as I'm doing here. I'm just focusing on all the little panel lines and everything, get them done first, and then I fill in the gaps so they don't have lots of little white bits left. The beauty of the 0.8 is it will continue spraying even with, I guess you could go neat on the paint, but you will get a little bit of a blockage, but they're easy to clean up. Whereas when I was using my, I think it's a 0.3 nozzle on my other airbrush, it was always blocking. And it was one of my friends that paints the RC car body shells. He uses a 0.8, so he gave me some good advice on that one, so I was really pleased. So I thought I'll share that with you. So 0.8 nozzle and airbrush thinners, and acrylic paints are absolutely no trouble. I always like to try and make sure that as you can see, I do test areas just to make sure it's coming out nicely, and then I go on because I don't want it to be spitting and dotting away. When I did my 95XX Loco, I got a terrible finish on it because I was using the 0.3 nozzle, had to paint the paint really thin. I just had a terrible time. With the doors, I used a bit of blue tack to hold them down. And then the roofs, again, they've been painted white, but I'm using the rail match. I'll put some codes in on the description of the colours that I used anyway. They do give you some idea in the Peco instructions, which is great. Anyway, with them done, the hard bit, well, not hard bit, but tricky bit, is cutting out some little windows to drop into these doors, and then we need to glue them in and fit them, which we did, and they went in nicely enough. After that, I just needed to paint the bottom of the frame black. I used the Vallejo black, it comes out quite nicely. I probably will come back and weather these at some stage, but as I've painted them fresh, I'd like to just stick with, this is how they've come. They look nice enough new like this, but I like the idea of adding a little bit of weathering here and there. But we'll see. At the moment, I'm building up the confidence on weathering, but when you've spent a number of hours building up two of these lovely vans, I don't really want to spend the time making them look dirty and possibly ruining them straight away. So as confidence comes, so will my weathering. I guess you've got to do it to try it, but I do that on something that hasn't taken me so much time. You wonder what I'm doing here, but I'm sticking some weight in. I had some little weights that I'd machined for some RC cars ages ago. Didn't use them. I thought I'll stick them in here because they're very light, and I like them to run on the railway a lot better. This weighs between kind of, I think 13 and 15 grams, maybe more, maybe 18 grams. I didn't really check at the time. I knew it just weighed more than 10. And I think that's important because it puts a bit of pressure into those axles and allows your whole model to run better. You'll find on some lightweight wagons that they're bouncing forwards and backwards as the engine's pulling them along. A bit of weights makes everything run a bit nicer, but does cause an issue for some locos to actually pull them. You get a bit of wheel slip But I've glued the roof on with super glue, nice and simply. This is the mink van, again sticking it on here. We have the weight going in, and maybe I'll have 2 smaller weights going each end at some point. But again, gluing them on, taking my time so they're equal, left, right, front and back, and that's it. Just gently put the pressure down, making sure you've got that equal gap, because then you can manipulate it a bit. With the super glue, you get less of a chance to correct it, and it gets a bit stressful. But for me, I take my time, press it down where I need to. Obviously, don't put so much super glue on that when you press it down, it spews over the edges, so go in reservedly. And here it is, it runs nicely. We have both, but what we are missing are some transfers. And the transfers come in the kits, and for the mink van, they're white, and for the cattle van, they're yellow, which goes with it, or a goldy colour, whichever what colour you want to call it. And you get some choice, because you can make it, I guess, BR if you want to, and you can leave the Great Western off and you put the different bits on. But for me, I'll stick with my favourite, which is the Great Western Railway. And so I soak these in water on a plate for only a few moments. That comes off reasonably quickly. And with some tweezers and a paintbrush, you manipulate it on. And don't fear too much, because you can still manipulate it. You can get the, if it's 45 degrees out, you just use a little bit more water and the brush, just gently work it. That you can start destroying it. I did damage some of the transfers, but if you really had to, come in the paintbrush later with the right colour and touch in those areas. Obviously I've got tweezers here. Be very careful with sharp bits on the transfers, because they will damage them. But I generally try and use a paintbrush just to manipulate it round until it's pointing the right direction. And then I just let it dry. You see here, it started out the wrong angle, and you just keep working it. Try and get it level with the other one. I use the planks of the wood to work that one out, and then put the numbers in there. And yeah, it starts to come together really, really nicely, and it's very therapeutic this stage. You're coming to the end. What am I doing here? Well, I'm sticking on some adapters so I can put on some NEM sockets. The wonderful thing about this is with that triangular shape that's inside, is the items you put on, they can move left and right really, really easily when you go around corners and that. So really pleased. These are Parkside ones that Peco sell again, and I'll put a link in the description below where you can get these from. I've brought packets and packets of these. I've got so many old Locos that need them. Now this is the cranked coupling, which gives the right height for the coupling to other Locos. There is a straight one, which would be far too high for this, or this cranked one, which is absolutely perfect. And as you'll see with my pannier that I've got here, it will couple up perfect, and that's great. And what I'll be doing is converting many of my old Locos, and not Locos, my wagons, with these items. One thing that was missing was some vacuum pipes. I only say that due to seeing at railways that I've been to and through pictures that these have vacuum pipes on. And I'm happy to be wrong, please tell me if I'm wrong, but I felt I should stick some on because they didn't come in the kits, and if you see them on the ones in real life, you assume that, fine, I need to add them. Maybe they're added later, but maybe in the comments below you can tell me about vacuum pipes, if they had them or not, because there'll be manual brakes that they can put on these, but I'm assuming with the vacuum pipe it allows us to have, brake control. Now another item that I picked up was this Lode star, which is from the Railway Museum, and it's been made by Hornby. I saw this and I thought I need to get it. I don't have a star class. I've got some halls, castles, kings, manors, but I don't have one of these. I wanted to get this also because it just looks so different. At the same time, having that same look, opening it up, you get all your normal details, vacuum pipes, you get your drain cocks, and yeah, I thought it'd be nice to have, and maybe this would be more of a rare item I'll struggle to get later on, and I'd only regret getting it. So picked this up from Tonys Trains and I was chuffed to bits, if I'm honest. It looks like a very lovely Loco. I do need to add some crew, but having a good look at it, there's lots of nice details. So the coal I felt actually looks very representative of real coal. I might add some in, but this had a bit of a glint to it, you know, when you go through the light and everything, it glistens. But checking out all the details, you can see, you know, the painting's wonderful, where they've got the double orange line going around it. I don't know much about the mechanisms on these, but it looks all tidy underneath. Always like to have a look. Fitted the vacuum pipes, looking smart. Just look at the cab area where you can see all the shiny pipes. We'll look at that a bit more in a second. But it's nice, it's slightly different to what I normally see on the castles and that. It's just very, very smart looking. Nice big chimney on there as well. The green colour, it's kind of, because this is the shirt button here, I don't know if the green was slightly different, but it's a slightly different green to some of my others, but more like my King that I have, which just says GW on the side. So that's kind of a bit more matching, but like I said, with the black and the two bits of orange either side of it, imagine you had to paint that by hand. That's a lot of work. But here's a view of the cab again. Just looks stunning. It really, really does. That's a lot of work that's gone into that. Well, seems that way anyway, but I'm very impressed. I just need to add my driver and fireman, get them inside there, and it will look really, really smart. But that'll be for another day. Can't wait to run on the layout. So here's our mink van, looking very tidy, and our cattle van. As you've seen before, I've added the vacuum pipes. And one thing I like about this is it's a very long van. If you compare it to its normal van, that's like the size difference there. It's good size. What we'll do is we'll connect up a little freight load and we'll get them going around and check them out. Right, it's a good size on that, so we'll enjoy doing that. But what we'll do is we'll get the old Juke Dog to come and connect up. Well, that's going round. What we'll do is we'll put on this wonderful, wonderful Loco. So you've been seeing the close-up shots already. We'll have some running shots now. Yes, I know I don't have a crew inside. I haven't done any weathering on it, and I'm sure there's many other things I haven't done. But we're going to find out how nicely this runs. So if we get it going at a slow crawl, or I'll try and do a slow crawl. I'm failing at that, aren't I? Seems quite happy. It's got a bit of a buzz to it. Let's go backwards. Ooh, bit of a lurch there. It's maybe me. Okay, there we go. A little bit lumpy. But it could be my comp speed running on it. They might be getting upset with that. But that's okay. What we'll do is I'll run it in for a bit and then we'll come back and we'll run it on the coaches and see what it's like then. But it looks very nice, I must say. So if you fancy visiting Tonys Trains of Rugby, go check it out. You could go enjoy the sights of Hillmorton Locks as I did. It's worthy of a day out. I really do recommend it. I'm sure there's lots of other model shops like this and I look forward to finding them as well. But for me, I got to enjoy many aspects of it, looking at models, picking up some bargains that I felt were bargains for me, as well as going for a nice walk and enjoying the wildlife, countryside, seeing the animals as you're walking around. It's beautiful, seeing the swans. You got the canal boats coming through. There was lots, and everyone was very friendly. Everyone said hi, which encourages you to enjoy those places a bit more. But anyway, thank you to all my patrons and my channel supporters. It's fantastic that I have that support from you all, and it encourages me to do more and more of this. If you wish to support the channel, then obviously click on the appropriate join button or go to Patreon and sign up through that, and I'll see you next time. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will see you soon. Take care. Goodbye.